Mother, man.
Spreading faster than a case of the clap in a trailer court. Able to shatter eardrums within a 666-mile radius. A podcast more brutal than all the rest. It's Murder Metal Mayhem! This is Pete Altieri with Murder Metal Mayhem, and I have the privilege to be doing this interview with the thrash metal band Korrosive. These guys tear it the fuck up from Toronto. It's great to have you guys on for a chat. This is my first interview of 2022, so pretty cool and good to have you guys on. How's everything up there in Toronto?
Oh, we're doing great. Yeah, thank you for having us, Pete. And it's a truly great honor to be part of this podcast, and we're looking forward to the questions you're going to ask us.
Awesome. And Jack, how's the weather up there in Toronto? Because you guys are north.
We are
south of Chicago a couple hours, but what's the weather like up there?
Frigid, like ice cold. It's not fun.
When I had Votov on from Winnipeg, they were talking about feet of snow. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah, they get that. They get that out in like the middle of Canada.
Right. Yeah, it was a lot of fun having them on talking about how we're a bunch of wussies down here when it comes to the snow and the freezing colds, like minus 36 or something up there. I'm thinking that's a little bit much.
Yeah, it's about minus 22 right now here, Jack, right?
Yep. It's
right now.
Extra cold. Oh, and there's a wind chill on top of that, too.
Yeah,
Are you serious? Oh, my God.
Minus 30.
Wow. You guys can have that's for sure. All right, well, I got Rad, the singer, and Jack, you're the guitar player or one of the guitar players. How long have you guys been musicians? I'll start with you, Jack. How long you been playing guitar?
Oh, 16 years.
Okay.
Close to that. Yeah, I started when I was about 8 years old. I still have the first like full-size guitar I got just on the rack over there. It's a Squire Bullet Strat. It's a 25.5-inch scale length, and
nice.
It was $100. Bought it with my own money, and it sucks. It's not good. It doesn't stay in tune.
Yeah, my first bass wasn't very nice either, so it was my paper route money that bought it. So what are you gonna expect, right?
Yeah. I got a bunch of axes that I like. I have two guitars for Korrosive. I got a main one and a backup.
Cool.
The main's a Jackson Rhodes. It's the RRX 24. And if people want to look that up, it's the black one. And then I have an original Xiphos, the 2008 one in black with a hard case. And the hard case is right there with all the stickers.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. What about you, Rad? How long you been playing the harp? I don't know. Is that's what? Oh, you're the singer. That's a
Rad's a guitar player too, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
When'd you get started?
It started about when I was like 18. It's about 22 years now since I've been doing vocals for thrash. I've been a thrash guy through and through, although I've done a couple of like side projects and guest vocals for a couple of projects here in Toronto. But thrash has always been my main genre. And
awesome. I really like your voice. I used to sing thrash too, so I really do dig your voice.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's what drew me in. A lot of bands, I might listen to the music and it's like it's cool, and then the vocals like totally ruin it. I hate that. So with you guys, it was not a disappointment once I heard the vocals, and music's killer. You guys are great. I really dig it.
I actually have to thank Jack and the other band members for that, because I used to like mix up my vocal styles, even with like the old Korrosive releases and with my old band. Basically, I was doing something that maybe I wasn't that comfortable with, and then one day, like when Jack was just like, before he recorded the Kaustic Hordes album, Jack told me like, why don't you just belt it out like the way it would come out from you naturally,
right?
And holy fuck, that actually made it easier for me. It sounded better, and hence Kaustic Hordes.
Nice.
To kind of extend on that, yeah. I said to him, there's one on the old EP, Melting From Within, the song we re-recorded, Acidized. There's like a little section in one of the verses where it's like, your voice sounds really good here, but it doesn't sound good like anywhere else. And then he said, oh, that's like my most natural feeling vocal style. I'm like, okay, do the whole album like that.
That's awesome.
The one part he sounded good. He did the whole record with it, which I think is fantastic. It's better to, really hit the nail on the head, and then rather than try and hit a million targets just because,
Right. Plus, if you're singing naturally, you're less apt to blow your voice out too. Less damage.
That's true. And based on experience, if you're trying as a vocalist, if you're trying to do something that you're not comfortable with, besides the fact that you're going to blow your throat out or your voice out,
right?
It's just not going to sound good, man. No matter how hard you try.
Right.
I understand that singers, even myself, like we try to emulate our idols, right? The way we listen to music or metal when we were growing up. That's the guy I want to sound like. That's
right.
That's like, unfortunately, what you want to sound like. What throat, no man.
Right.
My personal hero growing up was Chuck Billy of Testament.
Me
love
too,
Testament.
man. That's funny.
Yeah, I love Testament so much, and like Chuck Billy himself, he actually experimented with like a couple of like vocal styles, and you see that as they evolved as a band throughout the years.
Yeah, I love Demonic. I love how he stepped it up with that one. But,
that's right.
But like you said, he varies it up a little bit, puts a little melody into the music too, which is unique for heavy bands, so that's cool. Good one to emulate.
Step Brothers is just playing behind you.
What?
I love how Step Brothers is playing behind you.
Yeah, I was wondering what that was behind you. That's great.
Step Brothers.
You're talking about vocals and he's teabagging his drum set.
That's funny. Now, speaking of your album, Kaustic Hordes, that came out last year. What was the process like from the writing to the recording of that?
Go for it, Jack.
All right. It was all my idea because I got asked to join the band March 2020, so right when the pandemic was hitting, and there's like the bit of the scare, and we didn't really know what was happening, but they had a gig booked for May 3rd, which was obviously canceled, but and I knew that too. I didn't want to tell them, hey, that gig's obviously going to be canceled, and then I'm out of an opportunity.
Right.
I know the drummer Kave from Protocol. We're in that band together. Same role. I'm on guitar there, and he's the drummer there. They needed a live guitarist, so I said sure. I asked them what tuning they were in, and they said D standard. So I set a guitar up to D standard. I showed up and I learned their songs, and they had another song, and that song was Chaotic Evil. I'm like, okay, so there's 5 songs that I'm learning, all of the Melting From Within EP and this new song. The gig gets canceled. And then during like lockdowns and stuff, like Rehearsal Factory closed some of its locations temporarily. We ended up going to Best Deal in Town on Pulse and Pierre. We ended up writing more and more and more. And then halfway through, I'm like, okay, why don't we write like 4 new originals and then re-record the Melting From Within songs, because they could use a production boost and have a full-length album, because full-length albums, they get more attention.
Right.
An EP just isn't enough, especially for thrash metal. You got to have a nice good chunk of songs. As time went on, we decided, okay, we're gonna scrap Banana Mosh. It's a goofy song. No one's really gonna take us seriously if we have this unfunny execution compared to all these other more serious tracks. And time went on. We wrote more songs and more songs, and then we had the album all ready to go. We were supposed to record in November 2020. And then our guitar player quits out of nowhere, like just left her dicks in her hands. And we're like, fuck, what do we do?
Yeah, we're fucked.
Because he had solos to play. And so I had to come up with his solo. So all guitar is done by me. And I mean, that was a tall order, and I'm kind of glad I did it. I got to have a lot of control over tone and production and all that.
Sure.
My old rock band, we recorded a few things with this engineer, Ben Erickson. One of the songs we did a cover song. We covered "Sad Statue" by System of a Down, and I'm like, okay, there's blast beats, there's double bass, there's like, there's heavy guitar. I'm like, this is like kind of a recipe for thrash metal, even though it's not a thrash metal song. The engineer hit it out of the park. So I'm like, guys, let's go with this guy. Ben Erickson is so fucking good. And so
Nice.
they all were on board with it, which is great. I showed them the song and they're like, this is so heavy, like really heavy. And because of our guitar player quitting, we had to reschedule recording. And the day he quit, none of us were in a good mood. We were really pissed off. And I used that angry energy to write the song Vitriolism, which was the last song recorded for the album. So we're down to 7 new songs. And I thought, let's redo Acidized. I quite like the song. It'll flow well into the closing track, Septic Messiah. So we brought that song back, 8-song album, rescheduled recording to January and February. Recording took about 3 weeks. Like vocals were like 3 or 4 half days because Rad can't be wearing his voice out all the time.
Yeah, that's a lot to do in a day, full day of it. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. Guitar was, I think it was a day and a half. The first half day we got guitar tones, and then the second day we did like the remaining 6 songs. I did the first 2 one day, and that was tough. That was really hard. I consider myself to be a very disciplined guitar player. Like I got to be really tight. I got to know exactly what I'm doing. And but all the down picking, I wanted if it could be down picked, I did down pick it.
Nice.
So
Yeah, that thickens it up.
You can't cheat in thrash metal, and I think it's bullshit if you do. If it's uncomfortable with you, then play another genre. Like you got to endure the pain.
I agree, dude. Down picking sounds better for thrash.
So I was very fortunate because it was like a soft joining of the band. It was like 3 months after jamming with them. I'm like, so I'm still a hired gun, or is this like what are you? And then Rad said, "Oh no, you're in the band. You've been in the band like for a while now." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, that's what I told you. You've always been in a band. Did I not make that clear?
No, he didn't.
He's like Jack in The Shining. He's always been there, right?
I don't like taking people's it's Rad's band, and I don't want to like corrupt his vision or kind of fight over the helm per se. But I did get to steer the ship in the direction of I need this band to have a full length. It's got to have great production, and it's got to have a really badass music video. I know a great producer. I know a great cinematographer, and all of that happened. We have a music video.
Yeah, the video's great.
Burning Earth. That was shot by the drummer of my rock band, Oliver Salathiel. Excellent job. His friend, Michael Cow, I believe is how you pronounce his last name.
Yep.
I think he did director of photography on that. They both teamed up, and the singer for my rock band, Davey White, was gripping for that. So it was like a 3-person crew, and it was shot in the rehearsal studio where we wrote half the album in. So that song, Burning Earth, it was written in that jam room that's in the video.
That's cool. That's
cool.
So
and the cyborg in the video is Ben Erickson. That's our producer. So he recorded and mixed us. He did a stellar job on that.
That's awesome.
Now, the last thing about the making of the album was I convinced Rad, look, we need a label. Like, we all have different skills. There's a reason why Rad does vocals and doesn't play guitar, even though he can play guitar.
Right.
I can play drums, but I'm not as good as Kaveh. So, and another skill is marketing. If you go to a label, they're going to be exceptionally skilled at communicating with distros, marketing, really properly getting the name out there. And CDN liked us right away.
That's cool. Yeah, we've been dealing with CDN for a while now. Some different bands they've sent our way, and we just did an interview with Votov, your label mates up there with CDN up in Canada. And what's it been like working with those guys?
All right. So when we finished recording the album, like Jack said, it's better if we, most of us have this DIY or die attitude here, especially us, been around for a while. We tend to distribute our own music, blah 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 blah, shoulder off. which is fine. But Jack brought up that exact same reasoning, which you just mentioned a few moments ago, where if you're under a label, you'd get this, you'd get that, distribution, greater marketing. Basically, you're under the helm of somebody who's going to take care of you, provided that label doesn't fuck you over.
Yeah,
right?
I've been there.
So, yeah. So basically, the entire process wasn't easy, man. I'll tell you that, and I tell everybody that asks us about CDN and how we got to an agreement with them. Jack and I were individually messaging labels with our music, and not everything is like a hit, right? It's always a hit or miss. And those that do respond to you, sometimes like they're gonna say, "Hey, man, like I appreciate the music, but unfortunately, it's not a good fit for us." Or they're gonna say, "Oh, we're fully packed." And these are labels that are outside of Canada. So we started, saying, "Okay, Jack, what are we gonna do? It's been a month now. We've probably messaged between the two of us like 60 to 80 labels." And then I know CDN. They're Canadian, obviously,
Right.
but I didn't want to put myself out there. And I said, "Oh no, CDN's not gonna give me the time of day, man. Like, who the fuck are we for CDN? Forget about us." Like, we rebranded ourselves. Like, I've changed band members over the years so it could form another band or two, and then we're basically starting over. And I never even thought that it would be a possibility. And I just said, "Okay, fuck it. I'm gonna send them the entire Dropbox link, and hey, CDN, this is Rad from Korrosive. Check out our music if you're interested. Blah 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 blah." And I never gave it a second thought. Like, fuck it. 2 days later, I get a message from Craig, the owner of CDN. Message reads, "Holy fuck, this is what I've been looking for.
Nice.
If you're not, I want to sign you right now." And I was like, "Oh, soy face," And it's like,
That's cool, man.
I didn't expect it. And I guess those great things that they tell you about, that when you least expect it, something great happens. And
Right.
that was shining moments for the band. And we got this amazing deal that was given to us, and it's to say that it's more than fair, it's an understatement. And and Craig basically gave us the rundown. Myself and Jack were on the phone with him for a good hour. He explained to us how it works, so forth and so on. As Jack so eloquently says, that CDN doesn't own us, but they rent our music, as most distribution labels go.
Right.
And they've taken great care of us. Like, besides the fact that we distribute our music in shows and through our Bandcamp site, CDN has now effectively distributed Korrosive music all over the world. We're getting messages from God knows where and who knows what, and we didn't even realize that our music reached that far.
That's awesome, man.
It's all through CDN, man.
That's really cool. That's
Craig
really cool.
rules. He was so upfront, because CDN focuses on brutal death metal, and
Right. I was going to say a lot of the bands I see are death and grind bands.
Yeah, the misconception that CDN stands for Canadian is nope, it stands for Civilian Death Network, and they had to change it due to their mailing list. It said Civilian Death Network, and they're like, okay, CDN, we'll go for it. Right. Craig said that he's like, "Oh, I grew up with Sodom and Creator. You guys have that old school thrash spirit."
Yeah.
And we're like, "Oh, hell yeah!" And on the phone with him, the way he talks is very no bullshit. He's not gonna sugarcoat things for you.
Right.
He's very upfront, blunt, and honest, which is someone you really want in this kind of music.
Yeah, that's really cool.
You're not gonna want someone like, "Yeah, it's good." No. He'll say if it's good, if he actually thinks it is. Which is
that's good.
amazing.
That's good. Now, what's the scene like up there in Toronto? I know obviously COVID screwed things up, but what was it like before, and how has COVID affected it up there?
Well, it's not Montreal.
It's not Ottawa.
Yeah, there's some good bands here. We're really tight with the gore grind band Vesication. We've played a few shows with them. Great guys. I know Jeff pretty well. I've recorded some projects with him because he's an audio engineer. They're really solid working, disciplined, good ethic musicians. They're excellent people.
Awesome.
Yeah, I guess what to add to that is that the scene always changes, right? And to be perfectly blunt, I really don't like that word scene, because that means cliques and whatnot.
Sure.
And And I don't know how people might take it, but like when you say scene, it's like a particular group of people, this, that, this particular genre. I don't know, man. I've been around a while, and it's like it seems to me like it's all bullshit. Sometimes, like this particular group of bands, like they get the the attention, but they don't deserve it. Then whatever. I mean, they're not that good, but just because they know who's asked to kiss and so forth and so on,
right?
And that's my definition of the scene. But to add to what Jack said, there's like a lot of amazing bands here, regardless of the fact if they get like the light of day or nobody knows about them. In Toronto, there's a lot of great metal bands, regardless of genre, whether it's death, thrash, gore grind, black metal. There's a lot of them here. And well, with your question about the pandemic, prior to the pandemic, Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say that there weren't even a lot of metal shows in Toronto itself, but there are a lot in the neighboring cities. Like south of Toronto is Hamilton, which has a great metal scene. Kitchener, London, and as we mentioned, Ottawa, and of course Montreal and Quebec.
Right.
In Toronto, yeah.
Like there's like even going way back, the only like really big thrash band out of Toronto was Slaughter, but then you have legends like Razor, but they're from Guelph, so like it could be like if you really extend the Greater Toronto area, you could say Razor's from there because if they're gonna play shows, it's probably gonna be Toronto shows when they were forming,
right?
But like Rad was saying, like Ottawa, very close to Toronto, they got a great metal scene. Ottawa's got a great metal scene. The Montreal metal scene is gigantic. Like all of Quebec pretty much has like metal lives and breathes there. Toronto doesn't not have a metal scene, but like it's more home to like huge artists like Drake is obviously famously known here,
right.
And I guess people gravitate towards that style of music. It's like metal is very rooted in Montreal, so that's why it's so healthy there. It has been for decades. Bands from Toronto need to try harder. They really do. Like the bands Tomb Mold and Skullfist. They're Toronto bands, but they're not in the scene. You know why? Because they got their visas and they got out. They toured. They played shows that they said, okay, we're going to go to where scenes are healthier. And they play these shows consecutively, and a lot of them. They bust their ass, and they fucking deserve every ounce of success that they get because they work hard for it.
That's cool.
It's no different for Toronto bands, too. Like, we would be maybe better off if we were from a city with a better metal scene. But Toronto doesn't have a bad metal scene, so
that's cool.
There's slightly more incentive for us to like, okay, we got to haul ass. So we dropped Kaustic Hordes in August, and we're already halfway done our second album for writing.
That's awesome. Have you guys done any live streaming type stuff? Or plans to do any of that?
We were like right after we finished recording the record, we were going to shoot the music video and then get like a crew together to do like a live streaming thing. It would have cost a lot of money, but this was when vaccines were rolling out. So I remember Rad showed up. He was the only person on the music video set who got his vaccine early. And we're predicting like, okay, maybe there's going to be like, they're only going to let like vaccinated people in or something like that. And COVID numbers were dropping as well. So we ended up playing real shows. They were sit-down shows, but it was still a real audience before we could actually plan a live stream. And the more as time goes on, the more and more like outdated that's going to become.
Right.
We want to do it right. We want proper lighting, cameras, and sound is the most important. If you skip out on any of those, then it's not really worth doing. You want to translate, energy into someone's home, and that's pretty hard to do.
Yeah, I agree. It's tougher with the more extreme bands to do it. I know I've watched a few concerts that way. Angelus Apatria did one in Madrid, and I watched an Armored Saint show at the Whiskey in LA, and it was cool. I mean, it was nice to be able to watch, a band play that you like, but it's not the same. I think the more aggressive the band, the harder it is to do that, I think.
Yeah.
True. But if I might add to that, so, I mean, I've always told Jack and the rest of the band about this, like, I'll take my metal how I can get it. It doesn't matter if it's like a live streaming or if it's a sit-down event which we did for like a lot, like since the bars reopened here. And you know, like you said, it doesn't have that energy when you're doing like a live stream. But I told Jack, hey, if it makes sense, let's do it. I don't give a fuck if, you know, there's nobody in front of me. We'll still give it 100%.
Right.
You know, we never got around to doing the live streaming, but I remember the first show back. It was it September, October 2020, Jack, right? The patio of the rock pile. Remember, Jack?
Oh, it was August 2020.
Exactly. And then 2 weeks later, we got the lockdown again. But I remember it was like a 50% capacity. The bar was already like average in size to begin with, but in the patio itself, like we only had about 60 people, and there was like a social distancing, no moshing allowed. But you know what? We still gave it our all, and I consider it a great show for what it's worth, considering that it was actually one of the first metal shows in Toronto since the pandemic began. And Korrosive put up the show ourselves. We didn't go through any promoters or whatnot. We organized it, and we got Protocol to play with us, and that was it. And we tried.
I meant double duty for myself and our drummer Kave.
Yeah.
Nice.
Two 45-minute long sets. That took a toll on a.
Oh
on
yeah.
Personality. We have to give a huge shout out to our manager Monet.
Yeah.
Very cool. Right. Very cool. Well, I asked Votov a question similar to this, so I thought I'd have fun and ask you guys the same thing. If you had to pick one of the following people to be trampled in a Korrosive mosh pit, would it be number 1, Kim Kardashian, number 2, Fred Durst, or 3, Justin Bieber? Rad, why don't you go first? Which of the 3 are going to get trampled in the Korrosive mosh pit?
All right, I gave this a lot of thought. Believe it or not, I was in the shower and I was like, okay, it's like Sophie's Choice, you know? It's like,
right?
Exactly. So my answer would be to trample Kim Kardashian.
Okay.
Justin Bieber, you can say whatever you want about that motherfucker, but that little fucker can sing. Yeah, with or without the auto-tune shit. I know, and he's Canadian, so...
Right. I know. I asked you because I thought the Canadian thing would be a funny angle.
Fred Durst, say what you want about Limp Bizkit, but everybody sang along to the Nookie in thousands. And if you grew up during that age, you're a fucking liar if you don't know any Limp Bizkit songs and you were hiding in your car and you were singing to it. So my point is, Kim Kardashian, I know she's like a mogul thingy with her parents in that sex video and that with a TV show. I wouldn't care if she got trampled. That's my answer.
All right. Jack, what about you, man? Who's getting trampled?
I might agree with Rad because Gary Holt killed the Kardashians.
Right.
Like best guitarist in thrash metal. So
nice.
But my answer will change depending on the era. I'd say Kim Kardashian is the least offensive, but has been the most consistent, so she can get run over. If we're talking like 2010, 2011 era Justin Bieber, where everyone would not shut the fuck up about him, because I'm a young kid compared to these guys, so like he was all the rave in the 6th, 7th grade for me, and I'm like, hey, can you please shut the fuck up?
That's funny.
Fred Durst in like 1999, he would take the cake. Fred Durst nowadays, he's like old and kind of. They released a song called Dad Vibes. Like he's trying to capitalize on this whole Zoomer thing.
Right.
He's not the fucking red cap wearing annoying guy that Zakk Wylde hated so much back in the day. So that's a decades old piece of beef. So yeah, Kim is much more relevant nowadays. So
yeah, I get you. No, that's funny. What about touring? Any plans? I know with the pandemics, obviously got things all up, upside down. But any plans for any touring or big shows coming up?
We have a show with Exciter on February 19th.
Oh hell yeah!
Old
school there, man. Canadian old school.
Oh yeah, we're really hyped for them. Our new guitar player Derek, especially, is a huge fan of them. He absolutely loves them.
Does the drummer still sing? I remember the drummer sang, which always stood out to me as different.
Does he?
I thought back in the day that's what they did, the drummer sang, which I thought was pretty cool for Exciter.
It's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
I must confess, I'm not too well versed in Exciter.
Yeah, they were in the early. I'm going to be 55 in a month. When I was getting into metal in the 80s, they were like one of the first, underground type bands I had heard that kind of got me into that more so than listening to Ozzy and Maiden, which is great stuff, obviously. But I was starting to get into the more underground. I was at, to tell you how old I am, I was at a Metallica show in Hartford, Connecticut on Ride the Lightning when they were touring with Wasp and Armored Saint, and they were co-headlining with Wasp.
Nice.
I happened to go the night they headlined, so they played a little bit more, and I was standing with my hands on the stage right in front of Cliff Burton. Got to see him do Anesthesia, the whole bit. And then the following tour on Master of Puppets, I saw him open for Queensryche when Queensryche was doing Mindcrime, and that was probably 2 or 3 months before he died, because then they went to Europe, and that's when he got in the accident. So I've been doing this for a while, been into metal for a long time. I played in bands too, and
you saw Metallica with Cliff
twice. Yeah, pretty awesome, man. Yep.
Yeah. Fuck. So, okay, in terms of touring, so our goal, we have 2 big goals for 2022, which is a new album and to get our visas. So to take a chapter out of the 2 bands I mentioned earlier, Two Mold and Skullfist, they didn't wait for the Toronto scene to get big. They got their visas and they went to other scenes, and all of like let's be real, all of that is in the United States. There's cities an hour away from each other, and in Canada there's cities like a quarter of the side that's like a day away. It's like what, Thunder Bay, kind of a small place, and then the next is Winnipeg. It's like, man, that's a long trek. So we all have jobs that get in the way, so a tour, we have to kind of start a bit small. This is how Cannibal Corpse did it, is because when they were in Buffalo, the furthest they played, I think, was Montreal or Quebec City. They said they would play shows on their first album cycle anywhere that was drivable. So if we get our visas, we can play Syracuse, we can play Buffalo, we can really trek down to New York, we could obviously play Detroit. We'd love to play Chicago.
So it'd be 2 hours from you if you were in Chicago.
So we're trying to play as many shows as we can this year. That's like reasonably possible. As our scheduling allows it. We're really hoping, baby steps for like a week straight, maybe play 5-6 shows in a row, have them be in Canada and the US. And we have to at least break even. There's got to be a reason for us to not, get paid for this. We like it's gonna be like a shitty camping trip. We're constantly anxious that our gear is gonna get stolen, and we're gonna be sleeping in a van if we can afford to rent one, because Lord knows that any kind of profits you make are gonna be going into hotels. You can kiss that away, and then you'd be leaving with less money in your bank account.
Right.
It's about strategy. You have to play like with bands that pull. You have to get good promoters, consecutive lineup, food, transportation, like little things have to be accounted for. If you do it well, you can actually leave with money in your pocket. I've seen it done with a band that my rock band opened up for, this all-female rock band. They were touring Canada, and they somehow were leaving with a profit. Like, they were making money off it. It's like, oh shit, this is possible.
Yeah.
So it's awesome. But everyone has to be on board. You have 1 weak link and a tour doesn't happen. Like,
right.
That's a lot of variables to happen. So there's a ton of luck involved. Like, some shit could pop up and someone be like, hey, I can't do the tour,
Right.
But we're always going to push for that. Like, the drive is always there. We're a really dedicated, like, no bullshit band. We really want to fucking get out there.
Good. Any podcasts that you guys dig that you want to mention? I know you're Murder Metal Mayhem fans now, or you will be, but anything you guys listen to on podcasts you want to throw out there?
Oh, Jack.
Oh, I actually don't listen to podcasts.
That's all right.
I work and then I go on YouTube and like I'm a video editor, so I go on YouTube and I learn how I can make my skills even better.
There you go.
Or I go out and film some of my own stuff and come up with my own shit kind of thing.
That's cool.
Well,
What about you, Rad?
So the great thing about this now is I'm introduced to Murder Metal Mayhem, and I'll be honest, like podcasts, I've never actually listened to podcasts like up here, like I guess my network of friends, including the band, like we're all watching like shows like the First 48. Like we're into the murder stuff. Don't get us
Totally.
wrong.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
like-
favorite true crime shows is Forensic Files, and I'm
Exactly.
loving
Oh
Forensic
yeah, you
Files,
should listen
too.
to Dark Poutine. That's a Canadian podcast about all
hell
dark
yeah.
Canadian stories.
We're
I've
all
been
big
turned
fans
on.
of poutine.
Yeah, it's one of my questions. I heard about this here recently and getting a big kick out of it. But yeah, that's cool. I always like to ask people what they listen to. And I love the question about about bands you guys might like that maybe our listeners don't know about. And that's how I found out about you. Is I was talking with Votov and they were throwing out different band names, and I mentioned that I was more of a thrash guy than a death metal guy, and he threw you guys in the ring, and I went and checked you out on YouTube Music, and that's how I was like, holy shit, and I got a hold of you. So what kind of bands or what bands are you guys digging that maybe we don't know about?
Mortal Vision from Ukraine. They're like extreme thrash like us. They
Really?
got badass. Yeah, check them out. They got
Hell
a
yeah.
badass music video. They're bigger than us too, and they dropped their album like a couple months after we did. They're really fucking killing it right now. You're gonna dig that band,
Awesome.
dude.
All right, I will. A good one I'll throw at you is Warfect. Those
Okay.
guys are badass. They're a three-piece, and I did an interview with them, and they're from Sweden, and they are really wicked. You want to talk about down picking with those guys? Really good stuff. And yeah, I interviewed a band called Skeleton Pit, which they're out of Germany, and they're a really good thrash band. And they mentioned Angelus Apatrida, who I'd never even heard of before, and I checked them out, was totally blown away. They're from Spain. So there's just so much good thrash out there. It's really good to hear. What about you, Rad? You got one to...
Warfect is on Napalm Records. Nice.
Yeah, they are.
Well,
They're
for
wicked.
me, like when I'm listening to like music on Spotify, and sometimes I jerk my own chain. Like I listen to Korrosive, and there's like recommended.
We all
bands.
do. Everyone in a band listens to their own
Right.
music 24/7. It's no secret.
It's cool, though, what you were just saying, Rad. When they suggest other bands you might dig, it's cool to see what they compare to you, you know?
Exactly, and the funny thing is, like I was scrolling at the bottom of my Spotify page, and there was this like band that was suggested called Killing from Denmark,
Oh,
and yeah, the name is Killing. They're from Denmark, so I started playing their music, and I was like, "Holy fuck!" I was completely blown away, and I started
Wow.
messaging my. This is old school thrash that's like done right. There's a lot
that's
of bands.
awesome.
There's a lot of bands that try to do the old school like a thrash metal vibe and fail miserably. I'm not even going to mention names, but you know they try to bring back or raise the old school vibe. But that's the reason why the old school thrash is in the old school thrash, because bands from that era, you can't replicate that sound anymore for whatever reason, for
Right.
skill or technology or whatever.
Right.
But that's the reason why, you know, bands that do it right maintain that old school sound, but provide their own twist on it and their own flair. Like that's the reason what Korrosive does what it does. Like I still firmly believe that we're maintaining the old school vibe. But
I agree. I'm an old schooler. I dig you guys. So if you didn't, I wouldn't like it. So I'm the taste test for you. I've been around. I told you. So I've seen it, and I love the Bay Area stuff: Slayer, Testament, Exodus. I love all that stuff. But I'm originally from New York. I'm from the Bronx, so I like Anthrax, Propane. You know, some different bands, SOD. And now I live in the Midwest, just south of Chicago, and a lot of good bands up in Chicago, man. And my old band, Low 12, you know, we were a thrash death kind of crossover. You know, we did shows with Cannibal Corpse and Gwar and some pretty big stuff for quite a while. And so yeah, I played bass and sang with that. So yeah, it's fun to be still in the scene, even though I haven't played for a few years.
fucking great. I mean, there's like little small world things. Like my boss is Glenn Fricker. He's a YouTuber. I'm his video editor, and I showed up to like intern on a set one day. He interviews a guy, Michael Yari Davidson. He directed one of my favorite Alice in Chains music videos. Well, he was the cinematographer for it. The Devil Put Dinosaurs Here, and he's super into thrash as well. And he's going to be shooting a music video for a song off of Caustic Hordes in the coming months. He played in a band with Craig from CDN.
Oh, that's a trip.
Yep.
That's a trip.
Yeah, so a little small world thing there.
Now, I got to ask you guys, I asked John from Votov this question. I'll ask you, what about the Trailer Park Boys? Are you guys fans of the Trailer Park Boys?
I love Ricky.
You love Ricky?
Stupid, and he's just such a lovable, confident idiot.
Yeah, yeah. What about you, Rad? You a Trailer Park Boys fan?
I'll be honest with you. I've heard a lot of great things about Trailer Park Boys. I got it like queued up in my, but I haven't, because like when I start to watch a show, like I'm gonna binge. I'm the type of motherfucker where I'm gonna binge.
There's a lot of Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah, you got a lot to binge on, man. You better pack a couple of bowls and get ready.
Yeah, there is a movie.
Movies, yeah.
Wow. So
that's cool. I like J-Rock, Jack.
I love J-Rock
he's
too.
hysterical.
He's so like authentic.
I used to live in a trailer court, and there was a guy in our trailer court that we called G Money. It was kind of a goof, making fun of him, and he thought it was cool, so he called himself that. And I was at band practice one day talking about him, and this guy that was in the band's like, dude, you got to watch the Trailer Park Boys. They got a character that's basically this G Money fool that you're talking about. And I watched it and about shit myself. So yeah, Rad, you got to check that out. I definitely would love to hear what you got to say about that. And speaking of you Canadians, what is the deal with the poutine thing? I thought it was like a slang for pussy when I first heard it.
That's poontang.
You're poontang.
I know, but that's what made me think of it. And then I actually like Googled it, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Fries with gravy and all?
Yeah.
What's the
Hell
deal,
yeah, it's
man? And how do you
good.
guys eat your poutine?
If you come to Canada, I'm going to take you to Smoked Poutineery, and your life's going to change.
We have a listener that sent me a link to that. I read the menu. Yeah, that's pretty cool stuff. A lot of variations.
Bro, like forget about the menu, but just like think of poutine as your basic one. What's not to like about poutine? You got fries, good. You got gravy, good. You got cheese, great. And you put them all together, man. That sounds like a fucking party, bro. Like, what's like about poutine? Anybody, otherwise, it's a fucking liar, bro. Like, we all love poutine. If you try it, you're gonna love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll try it. I mean, I like all of those three things. It just together, the gravy thing's what threw me. But here in the Midwest, I don't know if you guys have biscuits and gravy up there in Canada, but I thought that sounded gross because where I'm from, the East Coast, they don't have it. And when I moved here, I thought it was like brown gravy, but it's like a sausage gravy, really good.
Yeah, with like pepper in it.
Yeah, it's good stuff, but it's a Midwest thing. It's in the South too, here in the U.S.
They're good. Like if it's done right. Like I got a buddy in Florida, and his roommate is a cook, and so when my friend was out at work, he made breakfast. And he's like, here you go, some classic Southern biscuits and gravy. I'm like, oh, hell yeah, this is fantastic.
Yeah, it's good shit.
And I asked for more. It was so good.
It's good shit. Anything you guys want to plug before I set you loose here? Anything you want to mention that we haven't already talked about? It's been a lot of fun talking to you guys.
Hey,
it's been a blast, man.
Very cool.
We appreciate the time you've taken to interview Jack and myself. If Jack hadn't mentioned it already, which I think he did, provided it's not going to be canceled, on February 19th, Korrosive will be opening for Exciter at the Rock Pile here in Toronto.
Hell yeah.
And like Jack mentioned as well, we're in the process of completing the songs for our second album.
Fantastic.
And that's just it, man. Like, you know, I don't want to say more great things coming from Korrosive, but that's
good, man. I'd love to have you back. You guys have something new coming out. Get a hold of me, and we'll get you back on. And you know, I will link to you guys in the episode description. I always tell people, you know, support these bands. You know, Votov, I got into them. I bought a shirt. I bought a DVD. If you guys have a 3X shirt, I'll buy one. I love to support the bands that I dig, and I think that's what's important, especially now with everything being the way it is. So if you're listening or watching, I'll link to these guys in the episode description so you can do that too. And you sent me a couple of tracks, Rad, and I picked the song you've already mentioned, Burning Earth 2029, to play for our listeners or viewers so they can check you guys out an entire song. Is there anything about that track you wanted to mention? A little bit about maybe what it's about?
Sure. So Burning Earth 2029 is a song that all of us collectively wrote for Kaustic Hordes. And as you can surmise from the title itself, it's about the world coming to an end.
Right.
And Carlos, our bassist, started like writing about like end of the world stuff because like we're fans of like Terminator and those 80s movies about like cybernetics gone awry and taking over the world.
Right.
So
RoboCop kind of thing.
like that. And I remember why I had to put 2029 in it. It's more of like a prediction from like 10 years. Well, when we wrote the song, it was like 2019, 2020. And I remember like Testament wrote a song called 3 Days of Darkness.
Yeah, I remember.
Yep. 3 Days of Darkness in 2012.
Right.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'll up that. We're going to do it Burning Earth. So in 2029, if the world comes to an end, holy fuck, Korrosive was right.
Korrosive called it, man.
Korrosive called it, man.
I hope you're wrong, Rad, but hey.
Me too.
I think that's especially Jack. He's young. I'm already old, so by then I'll be older, But very cool. Well, thank you guys for coming on and coming out here talking with me from Murder Metal Mayhem. Our listeners got their homework. You're very welcome. Listeners, you got your homework cut out. You got to check these guys out. I love them. Horns high from all of us here at Murder Metal Mayhem and here in the U.S. And good luck with everything, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, man.
Bet. Take care.
Take care, guys.
Man.